Yeah, so one thing most people don't know about me is growing up in Kenya, I always like dreamed of playing trumpet. I watched the Tester commercial, and there was a trumpet player who was playing Take 5 by Dave Brubeck, and made it something like, as a kid, everything he did, I wanted to emulate. I wanted to do that. Like I said, in my life, that's what I wanted to do.
For me, music is my means of expression. It's the way that I connect to the world. It has been that way ever since I was a little kid. Like, as a creative person, that is your life force. That is what makes you tick. That is what makes your heart pump blood. And you need instruments.
One Vibe is an amazing organization that helps young people in some of Kenya's most impoverished areas reach their full potential by tapping into their rich culture and their deepest artistic talents. One Vibe is an organization that partners these young people with mentors in their local areas and partners around the world so we can help them reach that potential. This Indiegogo campaign is designed to raise the funding to take that program forward one more year. It's to purchase the supplies that the kids need to undergo the program, to pay the instructors, basically to take this program one step forward.
And one of the biggest reasons why the EMP Museum wants to support this Madaraka Festival for One Vibe Africa is because they want to put an instrument in the arms of every child in Kenya instead of a weapon. This is a great opportunity for the EMP Museum to welcome and showcase the music from that region, from Kenya and from some Ethiopian artists, and show that the music of that region is beautiful and that we want to be able to support that community here at the EMP Museum.
One of the reasons I chose to be an ambassador is because the work that they do with the youth and young women, particularly in Kisumu, Kenya. We need your support. So for more information, go to www.onevibeafrica.org.
This is about giving people that do not have the same resources that we have here in America and giving them something that they can develop into a love, into a passion, and further themselves as individuals through the art form of music. On June 1st, at the EMP, there's going to be the Madaraka Festival. Amazing musicians going to be coming from all over the world. Come out, celebrate, enjoy life, and let's raise some money, get some instruments to the people that need it the most, the youth, and let's make it happen.
If you want to support that, then go to the Indiegogo campaign, support this concert, come out on June 1st, and be a part of what could potentially be a history-making day for the East African community here in Seattle.
Music, for me in my life, has always been a gift. Like, music is something that we can all understand.
Rudisha thanks kwa hii programu yetu na our director is Seven, and Rudisha thanks kwa kuleta hii project juu kuna wengi wetu wako wanahapa na hata kitu kama hii mbele yao.
When you give that gift to people, you unleash a power that is beyond what we know. So it's important that we pay attention to that, because what we can do is literally change the world. You know, it sounds cliche, but we can change the world.
All right. All right, so the first question I had was, what has the Black experience contributed to the world's music, both historically and contemporarily? You guys are so educated. That's a very easy question to answer. I would say being inclusive. It's always been part of the tradition that Black music has included everybody. If you think about jazz, for instance, jazz is an art form that included the white, the Black, the Asian. You go to Japan, you find jazz. You go to Europe, you find jazz. You go to Africa, you find jazz. You go to the islands, you find jazz. In South America, you find jazz. In the United States, you find jazz. Despite the fact that these people who created the music weren't allowed to walk through the front door, sit at the table with their counterparts, I think the idea of everybody is included. So inclusivity that's a word.
It is.
Yeah, so I'm going to answer these questions quickly and then open it up. Next question was, how do I embody the spirit of Sankofa? Well, for me, music is a continuum. It has no beginning, no end, you know. So I always try to look back because Sankofa meaning you have to look back in order to move forward. When you're a musician, every generation has to deal with more music than the previous generation because there are innovations, there are new things happening. It's almost like the tech world. Like, our kids are going to have something greater than Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. They're going to have something on a way higher level. Music is the same way. It's like technology. My grandfather was probably hip to classical music and to the traditional folk songs that they had, and you know, maybe he might have heard hip hop in Karachorn or something. But me, myself, I've probably been exposed to what he was exposed to musically times 10, just because of the fact that I was born in 1980 and not in the 1800s. So, because music is a continuum, each generation has to deal with more information, more theory, more ideas than the previous generation. So you always have to look back, and without looking back, you just remain a museum piece, or you're never able to understand the context, the social context in which you're working. Question number 3 is, in the class we've talked about the miseducation and aim toward the re-education of our students. We want to know, in what ways have you functioned as a re-educator or paradigm shifter, and how do you maintain your humanity while in the belly of the beast? For example, what keeps you resilient? I would say what keeps me resilient is contributing, giving back, and you unleash a power when you give back that is multiplied. When you involve people in a project and say, I'm Owuor, Arunga, and I just want to be cool, and I want to get the coolest players on my project, and I want to do something cool, and that's my goal. It's different than if I say, you know what, I want to give back, I want to contribute, I want to educate. When you involve the same musicians in that effort, they give you back, or they provide 10 times more than they would if it was just about you. If it's just about you, you know, it's about you. But what the power of re-educating and looking into that paradigm of, what's the word? The paradigm of humanity, altruism. You end up unleashing a power that's infinite, you know. People who sing a song on an album are going to sing the song on the album. But when they feel something that is greater than them, they connect to that on a much higher and robust level. It has far more depth than just recording an album. It goes deeper. It has a purpose. There's a journey that they feel they're on. They feel like they're contributing to something bigger than themselves. And that, for me right now in the stage in my journey, is the area that I wish to operate in. I was at the Grammys, and you know, you go to the Grammys and they, you know, you win this, you win the statue.
We don't know. We really don't know, though. You know, you just...
You have the statue, right? And you go with your statue and you go home, and it's all good, but, you know, after that, all it does is it builds this pressure that, oh, now what are you going to do next? Oh, you have a Grammy, we expect you to be like to make fire come out of your ears. You know, it's just ridiculous. It's not really, it is a short-term anecdote of joy. The thing that lasted with me going to the Grammys was the fact that I was sharing a room with Michael Jackson's horn section and the Beatles' horn section. So what they were able to do is they were able to field my questions. I asked them everything from finance to their technique, to their state of mind, their psychological disposition when they perform, how they got this far, how they had that longevity. And they were happy to answer all of those questions. Like for me, it's like I have a thirst for knowledge. I have a hunger for knowledge. So my greatest takeaway, not only being able to perform with Madonna and all my friends on stage and make a statement at the Grammys where we married 32 couples, same sex, and straight couples. But the biggest takeaway was really this. The biggest takeaway was the education that I got from the elder musicians who kind of like hit me to everything that I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm doing right, what I'm doing wrong. And I don't want to be biblical, but King Solomon said, my people suffer not for the lack of wealth, but for the lack of knowledge. So a fool and his money are quickly departed. A fool and his Grammy are quickly departed. But if you educate yourself and you're around people who are in the same place and who have been there and have learned all the ropes, then you're able to stay there for a long time and not just be an overnight success. I feel like in this stage in my journey, one of my mentors, Laversa Sullivan, always said that each one teach one, another one reach one. And I got involved in teaching children at a young age because I was teaching my peers. Anytime I learned a lesson, she made us teach our peer that lesson. And I continued doing that because she engraved it as a habit. And I think right now in the stage, the most important thing she said is the last stage of learning is when you're able to and give back what you learned to somebody else. You can't teach somebody something you don't know. But if you truly know it, you can actually teach somebody how to do it. So for me, I'm in the stage of my journey where I'm trying to manifest that. How can I teach other people how to do what I've done? And how can I share my experiences so I'm not the only one benefiting from the fruits of the tree? How can I spread that out? So those are the 3 questions. Now, I'd like to just open it up and have a candid conversation with you guys.
On the video, I noticed Michael and Owuor talking about the EMP. Have you ever gotten a chance to go there?
Yeah, definitely.
What was your experience like going there?
It was cool. I was there the first day EMP opened, and they had a huge festival. It was like this huge concert. That's the first time I shook hands with James Brown. You know what I'm saying? Me and James.
Look at his face though. Yeah.
But I got to perform there. I got to perform there on the first day that they opened the EMP up to the public. So, you know, now I'm doing a concert there that's benefiting all the funds that are raised are going to benefit this program, One Vibe Africa, that's involved in education. In 2008, there was post-electoral violence in Kenya, and much of the youth were involved in that violence. So the director of the program, because he saw brother killing brother, neighbor killing neighbor, tribe killing tribe, he saw burning buildings, people throwing rocks, destroying property, and it was scary. You know, you're scared for your life. There's a riot going on around you for a month. So he felt a need for the youth to be able to express their grievance in a positive way or in a constructive way. So what they teach is drama, dance, music, visual arts. And this is a place for people who live in impoverished areas like Manyata, which is literally a slum, dirt roads, no running water, but the people get the most out of life. You know, it's not like they're like, oh man, I'm so sad. They're smiling, they're going on they're going on with it. You know, nothing's really stopping. You know, the spirit of their human spirit is high, you know. So I think that's important to realize because, you know, that's part of the journey as well. It's like I come from Kisumu, Kenya. That's where I'm from. And part of that is being able to go back, see what's happening, and not be like when Simba, anybody watch The Lion King? And then Simba left, and then Nala came to Simba and she was like, man, Simba died. The wildebeest haven't been paying the rent, like, you know, like, things are horrible. Like, we don't, after Mufasa died and you left, it's been horrible. So you know, you have to go back and check on your home and see how everything's going and make sure that it's not like Lion King and Simba bounced, you know.
So you were born in the 80s, right?
Yeah,
So through the 80s and 90s and all until now, where do you see the direction of like mainstream hip hop going?
I think mainstream hip hop is probably one of the more innovative areas in music. There's not a sense, there's always going to be a sense of, I deserve this. I'm meant to be famous. I'm meant to be popular. I'm meant to sell a lot of albums. There are always those people, you know, depending on what generation you're born in. But I feel like hip hop is probably one of the genres that's the least like that. People hustle. It's all about grinding. It's all about making moves. You don't expect for anybody to get you where you're at. You're gonna sell t-shirts. You're gonna pass out flyers. You're gonna get online and invite people to your shows. You're gonna do everything it takes to achieve what your goal is. So I think it's probably one of the more innovative areas in music right now in terms of business management, in terms of the personal drive to be successful or to have your music reach the masses or the biggest amount of people that you can get it to. So that's where I see it headed. I see it headed in a very healthy place because of that. Because there's not this entitled, oh, I did, you know, there's always that, but it's the place where I see it the least. You know, people feel like they have to earn it, they have to get it, they have to work for it, you know, and I see probably one of the highest work ethics amongst hip hop, amongst rappers, DJs, those groups, those crews. There's like a fraternity that they have. That's another important element is when you have like a rock band, you know, they play their rock music and it's just like their crew. But in hip hop, you have multiple crews and each crew features on each other's stuff. They might host each other's shows. Like every song on the album has a different person from a different group. So there's a cross exchange there that's really important. So any one of their success becomes everybody's success. So if Lil Wayne's on everybody's album, on every hip hop album, and he blows up, then all the features that he's done has made other people's music more valuable.
So I know Macklemore got a lot of flack for winning, or some flack from winning a bunch of Grammys because there was this idea of cultural appropriation, like this white man sort of took hip hop and then won all the awards for it.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious because I feel like he really uses his voice as an agent of change. And so I'm just curious, as somebody who knows him personally and then also works with him, how you feel about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. You're talking about cultural reappropriation, how the white man comes and makes a hip hop song and all of a sudden he's the savior of hip hop. And, you know, it's the same story we saw in Frango. Same story we saw in, what was that movie with the blue people?
Avatar.
Avatar. It's the same story we saw in Pocahontas. It's the same story that we're fed. And I think it's important to realize that as an artist, in a social context of the media, right, you have a lot of control. You know, your message is important. That's something that you have to have well established in yourself before you do any of this. And the media also is known, actually their job is to spin things. They spin stories. So a lot of that is out of Macklemore's control. He can't help what the Huffington Post says about him. He can't go up to Ariana Huffington, and be like, hey, yo, Ariana. Yo. I mean, it's a free country, freedom of speech. Anybody can say whatever they want to. On YouTube, you can say, Owuor, you're, that's my neighbor from when I was a kid over there. And him and his brother were my best friends. Ben? Yeah.
Oh my God.
Everybody knows him.
But the idea, back to the question about appropriation, is the idea is that it is systemic. It's not, you cannot blame one person for that. It is something that is very political. It is something that is part of our social commentary, and it's purposeful. It's for a reason, you know, like, wouldn't we love to have another Tupac and Biggie? Macklemore and Kendrick, that was like, oh my, everybody will watch that. Like, Macklemore's beefing with Kendrick hates Macklemore. Truth about it is they're like really good friends. TDE and Black Hebrew Project are all over the Macklemore album. They've actually collaborated on a number of songs. If you listen to The Heist, there's Cadillac, which features Schoolboy Q. There's also people like On the Line. I roll them dice and I'm trying to the trip about was making it. They ain't getting it. I'm taking it. What is that song? Jimmy Iovine. Jimmy Iovine features Absol. Whenever we're in LA or hanging out with those guys, you know, whenever we're doing shows together, we have extensive conversations. Ali, who's Kendrick's producer, and I, we'll sit down in England and, you know, he'll roll a blunt and we'll smoke it. And it's really hot and all
I love Nia's face right there. That was so great.
But that's the reality of the situation. The reality of the situation is these guys aren't battling each other. They're both gentlemen. If you look at how they handled it in the media, Kendrick was like, you know, Macklemore's a great artist, great guy. Macklemore was like, I feel like Kendrick had the better rap album. We might have had the better album. And they handled it like gentlemen. There wasn't any panic. There wasn't any animosity. There wasn't any of that. Like, you prove your skills in the music. You know, there's only so much that you can say at the end of the day. You just have to work hard and re-strategize. So, does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Who do I? Mighty Mo, catch a tiger, let's go.
I got a couple questions. You said you thirst for knowledge, and you say you like to go back home and make sure everybody's like still doing good and know like you're there. What would you say is like your drive? Like, what's like your biggest achievement? Like not just going to the Grammys and getting your knowledge. Like what is it like if you ever have a bad day that you're there and you're just like, nah, I gotta keep going because of this, or I gotta keep pushing because of this, and it makes me feel like a better person because of this. Like what drives you? Like what's your
I mean, real talk. You want to hear the real talk? Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to have this portable television, and I used to just keep it on, you know, whatever, and it was on Channel 9. And at the time, we had Rwanda. You remember Rwanda when they had the mass genocide and people were dying and everything? And I remember it just brought me to tears. I said, one day I'm going to be able to make a change. I'm going to be able to do something about it. Like, at the time I was in middle school, there was nothing that I could do. And I said, one day I'm going to be able to do something about that. Because it's obvious. Like, there's a TED Talk that was given by this guy who has the stats of the world. You look at the distribution of wealth on planet Earth. And you look at it according to countries, you look at it according to continents, you look at it according to race, you look at it according to all those elements. And when you look at the distribution of wealth in terms of if you're African, Arab, if you're European, Asian, the only people whose percentage has gone down is Africa, or Africans, people of African descent. The percentage, it doesn't get bigger, it shrinks. You know? To me, that's a powerful thing. I'm talking about the entire world. I'm talking about in the past 200, 100 years, the wealth has been going away. It's been going somewhere else. You know? It's not that we don't have the same brains, that we don't have the same feet, hands, like we don't have the same ability or the resources, but there's something there that raises a red flag. You know what I'm saying? So for me, I've always been in tune to the Dalai Lama. You know what I'm saying? The idea of altruism, the idea of humanity, the idea that there's some element of proactiveness that you have to take. You have to change yourself in order to see the world around you change. So what keeps me going is not making myself a victim, because there's a lot of my mother is a professor. My father's a professor. My father is an ambassador for Kenya to Egypt. My brother's an ambassador. There's a lot of information that flows to me that tells me, oh man, the situation for my people is dire, you know? But for me, I have to keep on going, and I have to think, how can I keep my eye on the prize so I don't let that kill my drive or productivity? How can I transform that energy into something positive? You know? So every morning I wake up, I write. Every morning I wake up, I focus my thoughts. You know, it's very meditative for me. I was in Egypt and I went to the Great Pyramid and I meditated in there and I just try to focus my thoughts in a positive way, you know. And I try to ask for the divine. I try to ask for a lot of faith. It takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of the beautiful faculties of the mind. You can't fight fire with fire. Figure something else. The OGs say, be water, my friend. So, you know, it's always motion going on. You have yin and yang. You can't have yang without yin. You can't have yin without yang. So you try to bring those things in a balance. And it's that keeps me going. Is always trying to find that balance and continue to know my center and continue to be productive. Because as long as I stay productive and as long as I don't, you know, feel like I'm defeated, oh, this is never going to change, I can't change anything, then I can be the solution and not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Back.
I have a question about music and your education. New college did you go to?
I went to the New School University.
Where is that?
In New York. It's in New York, downtown. Have you ever heard of Inside the Actors Studio?
Yes.
Or the Parsons School of Design? If you watch Project Runway or any of those shows. Yeah, it's a school that was started in 1911 by Jewish expatriates. And it was a school for social science. And the way it became a college, the way it became a university is that a number of colleges came together. The Joffrey School of Ballet, the New School for the Mattis School of Music, the New School for Social Science. All these schools came together to create the New School University.
And then as a musician, I guess the struggle I have is like, what do I need to equip myself with as a musician? Because everyone's like, they can produce themselves, or do I need technique? Do I need creativity? Do I need resources? Do I need media? Like, what would you say is the best thing to have as a musician to make yourself a good musician?
Okay, so what is the best thing that you need to have as a musician to make yourself a good musician? You have to have you have to have an obsession. It has to be an obsession. That's the only. There has to be an emotional connection there that obsesses you. Really, I would say this: you have to go through a lot of bullshit in your life in order to become a great musician. You have to be knocked down. You have to be knocked to the ground. Like, you have to go through a divorce, or you have to go through like an addiction, or you have to go through something in your life that says, you know what, world, right now you got me down, but I'll come back for you. Like, I got you, world, I got you. And what happens with that is you focus anger. You see, anger has been. There's a book called The Artist's Way. It says anger is actually a beautiful emotion. Because when you have anger and you're mad at something, it's like a signal to you that something needs to change. So when you have that anger and you're like, yo, I'm going to obsess myself with how to study everything I possibly can about this, have the patience to develop the technique, have the patience to learn everything I know about production, have the patience to pull upon all the resources and make all the connections I possibly can, tirelessly, day after day. When I go to sleep, I'm bumping music. When I wake up, I go to sleep with the instrument in the bed. If I play the piano, my girlfriend ain't in the bed, my keyboard's in the bed, and when I wake up, first thing I do is I'm thinking about, okay, my fingerings, and then I set up the keyboard. Actually, the keyboard should just be set up. And you're around the clock. It's a drive that says, nothing is gonna stop me from being able to communicate music like I speak English. At any given time, it's just like, you know, it's that energy. You could communicate with it. It's to that point where you don't think about it. You just react. You just do it. Like Bruce Lee would say, I don't hit. It hits all by itself. I'm gonna go to this side. Go ahead.
That was beautiful. I got a lot out of that. So I'm a musician. I'm a cellist, and I find that I have a barrier when I'm working by myself. For instance, like I'm in 2 bands. I'm in the chamber orchestra. I feel like I can perform well when I'm standing with others. But like I have a great voice. I'm too scared to sing in front of people. Like I'm too like. I don't know what my block is necessarily, but I'm wondering if you have any advice really to be able to get in touch with that like music that is just mine.
I would say, incredible question. That's every artist goes through that. Like, think about it. Have you ever heard like that artist who comes on the radio and you know who it is? They don't even have to tell you who that artist is. Do you know how long it takes for somebody to find their own voice? To find their own style, their own swag, their own way in which they do something where it's them. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't just wake up like, oh yeah, I got it, you know. Or like, oh, I got it. It doesn't happen. It's a journey, you know. There's an incredible book. It's called The Artist's Way, written by Julia Cameron.
Okay.
She was Martin Scorsese's first wife, and she's a writer. There's also a follow-up to that book called Walking in This World, and there's a follow-up to that book called Finding Water. And she deals with all the issues of how to unblock yourself as an artist. And it's a spiritual guide to artistry. It's a 12-step program. So every week, she gives you assignments. And every day, you also have an assignment. The assignment is to write 3 pages every day of free-form writing and to brain drain yourself, because a lot of the times when you wake up, you have all these things going on in your head. It's like, okay, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And it's like, your mind is running 100 miles per hour. What the writing does is it gives you a little break from life. It gives you vacation. You get to just like sit down there, spend 30 minutes filling out 3 pages. And once you start doing this every day, you start to realize the power of writing. There's a divine power in writing. Like, if you write 3 pages for a year straight, you get to the point that you realize that some of the stuff that you wrote actually happened. Wow. And then you start being like, why should I write anything bad if like this stuff is actually happening? Why should I ever write anything bad? I don't know nothing bad. So you start writing everything positive that you want to happen. You start writing that every day for year 2. You just start writing everything positive. And you can start on year 1, really. I tell you, I have